going into my basketball. Every time I rock, man, this is how we rap and raw. Peace to my man, now we got the camera out. Every time I spit it, cross over the...
Hello, everyone. This is Josh, also known as Yashu, and you're tuning into the 30th episode of the TLOY Talks podcast. You know, we just made it for this amazing milestone right here, and I congratulate everyone for tuning in all throughout the years. How are you guys doing today? Like, we're gonna set this up like very well and all that. You know, thank you for watching, and you know, we'll definitely tune in and make sure you tap in for other ways too. So let's get it started right here. You know, so I think there's a lot to talk about this artist too. Like, known for his 2021 project release Full Circle, as well as his Peel EP series. He recently dropped his Peel EP Volume 3 just a couple days back. You know, it has like features from Villa, Dex Ray, Noel Pink, and much more. And he's been covered on Rolling Stone India, Complex, and Much Music Canada. Performed at Canadian Music Week, Desi Fest at Young Dundas Square, Launch Music Festival, North by Northeast, and opened for Cardinal Official and all that. He's all over your TikToks, all over your YouTubes, and everything like that. And he's the official artist ambassador in Brampton in partnership with the Brampton Arts Organization. It is with legendary hearts today that we have the legendary Spitty, also known as Spitty95. How are you doing today, bro?
Hey, dope intro, yo. Legendary intro. Appreciate it. I'm doing pretty good, bro. After that, I feel pretty hyped up, you know?
Yeah,
Smiling
man.
right now. Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, how you feeling, bro?
I'm all right, man. You know, like my second cup of coffee throughout the day too. It's
getting turned up.
Pretty much, man. You know, it's just like with the vibes and all that.
For the big 30.
Yeah, man. You gotta like do it well. Like either way, do it big as well too. You know, and like I actually managed to check you out just last year at a showcase at Canadian Music Week at Bar Cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this like earlier too and all that. You know, your performance was like very like dope here and there. You managed to get like the crowd going and everything else too. And you know, it was just a vibe. You know, I had to check out the music too. Like the project Full Circle was like too amazing and all that. And like I've noticed you've worked with like other people that you know I've managed to like tab in with before, with Dutchy, Noel Pink, you know, also with Villa, also with like you know Versatile Vigilante and everyone else too. And like you know the music and everything else, it's been dope. And like even with your social media rise, it's like crazy. And like I've noticed it throughout like many interviews with many like songs with many showcases. It's like interesting to see in that sense, you know.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to tap into everything I can. You know, I see a podcast, I see a showcase. I'm like, yo, how can I get myself on there? You know, just trying to tap into all the avenues and work with everybody, build a community, and just grow, level up, and you know that's what we're doing. That's how we got here, I guess.
Yeah,
so
no, for
appreciate
sure, man.
you.
You know, nah, for sure, man. We definitely had to get you on here, you know, like to kind of get the fans going, to kind of get everyone to tap in
Yes,
as well too.
sir.
And you know, I know that we've already like covered like the life story and everything else too from other interviews through your songs and all that. So this is more so kind of like, you know, what fans don't know about you or like with anything else too, like to kind of pick your brain for a bit too. And I want to start off. So, you know, your parents are from Gujarat and all that. You are of Gujarati descent in that sense too. So growing up with parents from Gujarat, describe to me more about your Gujarati culture in your life as well as like in your household and like in general in that sense.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Like Gujarati people, pretty calm, you know, like
Yeah.
pretty disciplined and orderly, and
Yeah.
they're about their business. They own a lot of businesses, you know.
Yeah,
In
I know.
America, there's like a stereotype called like the Patel motels, because
Oh,
like
true,
mad
true.
motels are owned by
Yeah.
Patels. I'm a Patel too, so it's actually a real stereotype. Like when we go to America, like we would just stop at like random family friends places. I don't even know where these motels are. You're in like the middle of nowhere. Probably get some sick discounts, but
Yeah.
they own a lot of like subways and stuff too. You'll see us around everywhere, yo. But it was cool. Like, but the thing is growing up in Brampton, like everybody's brown and like from some sort of immigrant culture. So a lot of us like rejected, and like people were like, you know, to be honest, I didn't really bring like brown food to school, but other people who like if you brought brown food or whatever, like you might get made fun of and like by other brown kids, you know, some crazy concepts. So
Yeah.
like I would definitely say like earlier on, I wasn't too into my own culture. I was more into just like what was going on here in Canada and
Yeah,
like
no.
hip hop and all that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like way later, like even when I started making music in high school, I didn't really incorporate any of that into my music, but years later, I started mixing in all like the samples and stuff, and then
no.
that really influenced it. So kind of had to like come around and like
Yeah.
realize like, yo, there's value in that culture, and
Yeah.
we shouldn't be rejecting it. You know, I think the world's changed too. Like at this point, people who are younger probably don't experience it the same way. You know, being in Brampton, but it was just different time back then.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. And like I've noticed, like more so with Toronto and everywhere else, it's more like Punjabi people than like Gujarati people and all that. Even though the Gujarati like population in Toronto is like very like interesting too, like especially with the language too. So, I wanted to figure out like what were like the differences between Gujaratis and like Punjabis, like in that sense too, like for people who might not know, like in that sense.
Yeah, one thing, especially with the music, is that Punjabi people definitely have a scene, like a music scene. There's
Yeah,
not really a Gujarati music scene like that. We have like our like traditional cultural music, like Garba music and stuff. But Punjabi people have like their own traditional music,
true,
and
true,
they have all this modern
true,
music that's like
true.
taken over,
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah,
they're definitely kind of more of like the like louder like party people
yeah,
of India. There's other cultures too, like in the south and stuff. But if you just compare those two, because like they're both in the north and they neighbor each other, we're definitely more like
yeah,
the calm ones, you know, just doing things
yeah,
behind the scenes, more
yeah,
like administrative and
yeah.
stuff. So
No,
a lot of my family members, I mean, even in Punjabi people, most people go in some more like straightforward fields. But in the music scene, you see a lot more of them. A lot of my family members, I'm really the only one doing music. Everyone else is
yeah,
doing like accounting or
yeah.
computer science, which I
Yeah.
did too, you know. So
And I know what you mean, man. And I know there's like this one weird stereotype that a lot of people have for Gujarati people, and like it's kind of like how Gujarati people are like cheap or stingy and all that. I don't know
yeah.
if you want to like kind of like dip back on that or something like that.
I guess like people have that stereotype about Indian people and some Asian people in general, but within the Indian people, like Gujarati people are like some like next level of it. I don't know, but it's what can I say, yo? It's pretty true. Like my family definitely was pretty frugal, you know, like but
Yeah,
it comes from more of just the way they operate. I think like a lot of them are in businesses and like entrepreneurial things are more like self-owned
yeah,
businesses, family businesses and stuff. So all your expenses and everything's kind of related, you know?
yeah,
So you sort of think about things in different ways and they're always just trying to prosper, but sometimes it could be kind of too much, you know?
yeah, no,
Like it's good to like live a little. So I definitely try to like live my life a little more with enjoyability, you know, and not
yeah,
try to be too like stringent on trying to be like, yo, just save everything and like and
yeah,
be super cheap. But it's there. It's for sure part of the culture, and that's what a lot of business too is like in India and like Asia. You get a lot of like bartering and haggling and
yeah,
stuff like that. So it's kind of the culture to be like trying to like get what you can. So when that
yeah.
comes into this world, it doesn't always make sense, but comes across as cheap, I guess.
No, no, most definitely, man. And to get more onto your story for a bit too, like you've talked about like going to like Western University for like comp sci for a bit too. So tell me more about that experience and obtaining that BCS in comp sci, and just like your experience going to Western and what school life was like back then, like in the mid 2010s, like late 2010s in that sense too.
Yeah, no, going to Western was sick, bro. Like, I actually picked it because there's a couple of different schools I was trying to pick. Well,
Yeah,
in computer science, the main one's like Waterloo. That's like the one
yeah,
that's like the best school. It's like one of the best schools in the world.
yeah,
But you need some next crazy high
yeah,
average to get in there, and I didn't get it. So then after that, I was picking schools based on more of the vibe and the experience I was
yeah,
gonna get. So
yeah,
some crazy thing that was like in like early 2010s, there was like an article like top 10 party schools by
yeah, man,
Playboy magazine,
yeah,
and Western ended up being like fourth on the list, yo. And I don't even know how because they never did that article again. And I seen that and I was like, yo, that's pretty sick. And I started looking into it and it looked like a
yeah,
lit school,
true,
so I
true.
went there, and it was actually pretty crazy. Like
Yeah,
a lot
no,
of fun, a lot of enjoyable times, and I was more focused on trying to become a rapper than I was a computer scientist, you
true.
know?
Yeah,
So I didn't put too much effort into the computer science. Like I was kind of just doing the bare minimum. A lot of the stuff's interesting, but it takes a lot
yeah,
of work, you know?
no,
And with computer science, you gotta do a lot of stuff on the side. Like you gotta be
yeah,
doing a lot of extra projects and building your own apps and like hackathons and all this kind of stuff
yeah,
that I
man.
wasn't trying to invest in because I was trying to put my free time into just having fun or making music, you know?
Yeah, no.
So that's how it went down. And yeah, I would say it was overall a sick experience. Like if I wasn't trying to make music, I probably would have been having even more fun and stuff and going even crazier. But
Yeah,
I try to keep it toned, you know. But
yeah,
like
true,
a lot
true,
of lot of growth there for sure. Coming from
true,
Brampton,
true.
it's just like mad
Yeah,
brown people, and in Western, it's like the opposite. You know, it's
yeah,
like mostly white people. So really a culture
yeah,
shock. As I was like getting into it though, like the later years, there's more international students.
yeah,
So it kind of balanced out. Like
yeah,
the demographics probably a little different now. You
yeah.
know, I started there like almost 10 years ago, so
Oh,
it
true.
was a different time. But
Yeah.
nah, it was sick, bro. They even have football games where they have like a real horse, like it's called a Western Mustang. So
Oh,
they have like a
true.
real Mustang that like freaking runs up and down when you get a touchdown. Pretty lit, yeah.
Yeah, man, and
Can't
like
lie.
I mean, also too, like I think after graduation, I think Juice World and like Uzi performed at like their Frosh Week or Homecoming and all that, and like I know that like the party life is like crazy for a bit too. So if you
Yeah,
could like
yeah. I
give
was
like
there. I was there for the Juice World and Uzi thing. I graduated, but I went back because that's homecoming. So people go back, just to like turn
true,
up.
true,
And so I went back like a couple of years, 2018 and 2019. Then after that was the pandemic. But
yeah,
yeah, like they had a bunch of people, bro. They had Loud Luxury and Murder
yeah,
Beats
yeah, man,
and then yeah, they had Juice and Uzi,
yeah,
and that was crazy.
yeah,
And I didn't even get a ticket
yeah,
because like
yeah,
I was just partying on the street the whole time. But you could watch it from like kind of like the outside. They had a
yeah,
fence and stuff. You just watch from the side.
yeah,
So we were just
no.
me and my boy were just watching it. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. Because I went to like UIT and then graduated like in 2018 and all that, and like we didn't really had like a lot of shows back then, but it had like a good party scene here and there, like not as much too. But I know Western, it's like crazy with the parties and all that, crazy with like homecomings and all that. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's an
man.
experience for sure.
Yeah, man. And just like your experience like in school and work in that sense too, because you talked about being in the tech industry for a bit too. Like I know that
Facts.
there's like this discussion more so on the importance of like a 9 to 5 and like an importance of like an education, like in that sense too. Do you feel that like seeking a 9 to 5 or attaining an education through like schooling is more of a better approach to attain like success nowadays, or do you feel like it's like the opposite, like with your endeavors, like in that sense too?
I think you just need some sort of like stability. The key for me with working was to make money, like with
Yeah,
music, it's really hard to make money when you're starting out. So like you need some way to survive.
yeah,
Especially when I was at Western and I was like paying my rent or whatever and just like surviving on my ones. Like I had to just figure out ways to make it work. So like I had an internship there and I was working in tech, and that's when I kind of realized like, yo, okay, this is like the way I can make it sustainable, just like work
yeah,
and then funnel that money like that's not being put into just like life expenses into the
yeah,
music and just push through like that. So is necessary because if I didn't have that, like then I wouldn't just be able to survive. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
So like that's why I really needed that. If you have like some other way of pushing without having money, like someone like you can just like be at home or maybe you're in high school or
yeah,
something, like you're in that point where it's before like you need to work to like sustain yourself, then for sure just go all in. But like I kind of did it that way because I needed to make the money, then now give myself the opportunity to go all
yeah,
in. But right now I'm mainly living off the savings that I built up from working for a few years.
yeah,
And pandemic was kind of good for that because there wasn't much going on. So it was just
yeah,
a good time to keep your head down and work,
yeah.
make some guap. And now I'm just kind of burning through that, trying to make it happen.
For
But
sure.
yeah, I think the smart thing is to be like smart about it,
Yeah.
like have a plan and not just try to wing it because it's really, really rare to go viral. And like that goal is there, obviously, and it can happen at any point. But like, if you keep trying and being consistent, like you're giving yourself more opportunities to actually go viral and blow
Yeah.
up. But if you don't have the means to keep doing that, then like you're gonna fall off. So
No.
going that tech way was better too than like a 9 to 5 that's like in or not 9 to 5, but just a job that's in like a more low paying world. Is that you're gonna make less
Yeah.
money doing more the same hours.
Yeah.
So by putting more time and effort into the schooling, like in the end, the tech jobs I was working, um, well, especially the last one, like it didn't require. It was a 9 to 5, but it was more chill. So like it didn't require as much time.
Yeah.
So then even while I was working from home, I could put my time into. I had two computers going, putting my time into music.
No, true, true.
While
Yeah,
like getting
yeah, no,
paid.
most definitely.
Where you can't do that if you're working at freaking like McDonald's or like your Amazon warehouse or
Yeah.
something. You kind of have to like be on the clock. So kind of strategies to it, I guess.
No, most definitely because like a lot of kids nowadays too, like they'll watch like TikTok, they'll be like on the internet, all that type of stuff too. And it's like, they see like a rapper like doing something well, or they see someone else doing well without having to do like an education or going to work and all that. And they feel like if they could do something like that, why can't I and all that? And like there's people that do try as well too. Because they're tired of the whole like 9 to 5, that whole schooling experience, and sometimes it could work, sometimes it could not work, and all that too. So like even with those kids that might not be as successful like in that creative endeavor and all that, like would you feel like even like with that 9 to 5 or that schooling, do you feel like it might be that only choice, or if there's like another way to attain it, like would it be possible?
Yeah, I think another thing you can try doing is also just trying to find work that's like in the world that you're trying to
Yeah,
be in. It doesn't have to be like a typical like office job 9 to 5 that's like super unrelated to whatever you're trying to be in. Like I got homies that like are trying to make music or whatever, and then they work at like venues like doing, I don't know, manual labor, working the bar and stuff, things like that. But then
yeah,
you're kind of more in the world that you want to be in, you know? So that way you can make money and then also make connections or, you know, gain experience through that sense. So there's different ways of like still making money that's like can also be related to your creative endeavors. Like as a rapper, you could also start learning how to produce and engineer and then, you know, run studio sessions, especially if you have your own setup for yourself, start doing it for other people. There's different options, I think, but the key is to not forget about that aspect because like it's pretty hard to make money just as like a musician just trying to push your songs on Spotify and just make money off
Yeah,
streams, you know?
no,
You got to
no,
be smarter about how it's going to come in.
nah, for sure, man. And just getting back onto the topic right now, like you're recently on the 90 day diet, right? Or have you
Yeah.
accomplished?
Where did I even say that? Yeah, it's crazy.
I think We Love Hip Hop. Like you were talking about the whole like
Oh,
90 day diet thing and all
shout out
that.
We Love Hip Hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, man. I've been trying to get abs, bro, my whole life. I was trying to get some freaking six pack, dog. I never had a six pack. So now
Ah,
this year I'm
true.
like, yo, I'm super committed. This year I'm super committed on all my goals. So that's just another one we threw in there, you know?
Yeah.
So that started like beginning of April. So we're about like 30 days in.
Yeah.
I'm still just, you know, cutting off that winter bulk, you feel me? But we're
Yeah.
about to get shredded just now.
Yeah,
So
most definitely. Like
wait on that
yeah,
one.
So like how's like that journey so far? Like I don't know if it's like you're cutting back on like certain foods or like certain drinks and all that because there's like different types of diets and all that.
Yeah, pretty much just cutting back on all the excess stuff, like not trying to drink alcohol or like eat a lot of like late nights. Like I'll come home from events and stuff, like going out to a lot of different things, like 4 or 5 times a week, and have like late night meals or like
Yeah.
desserts and stuff. Cut all that out, you know,
Yeah.
not too much sugary foods and all that. Just trying to be clean, you know, eat
Yeah.
simple and get my workouts in.
Yeah.
And hopefully we make it somewhere. So we'll
No.
see. We'll see where that's gonna
Yeah.
go.
Most
Might see
definitely.
some freaking thirst traps from me in a few
Yeah,
months, and then you'll be like, ah, geez, this guy's out here.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's like a lot of like other stuff too for like fasting and all that, and like people have like different
Mm.
like effects and all that. I mean, like the infamous like FAP November or like no nut November and all that. Like some people are talking about having like spasms or like weird types of stuff and all that. I don't know, like even with this like diet, did you notice like the effects from the diet like by any chance?
No spasms. Definitely no spasms. Yeah, pretty chill so far. But like, definitely feeling just like motivated when I be hitting the scale and I feel like I'm cutting down or whatever. Just like feels good to like feel good. You know, like when you get the physical goals you want, just any goals you want. Like when you're starting to achieve them, like it starts to motivate you. You know, so I think that's kind of life. Is like you gotta set some intentions with yourself and then try to get to those. And if you make that progress, you're gonna feel good. So right now I'm feeling pretty good. Hopefully, if I get to that, I'm gonna feel even better. But we'll see. Yeah.
Nah, no, most definitely, man. Just getting onto this next question right now, social media, because I know people usually use like social media for work and all that type of stuff too to connect with like others and all that. How do you feel about it nowadays too with everything going on?
Yeah. No. Social media is super key, yo. Without social media, I feel. Yeah. No. Without social media, bro, I wouldn't be like where I am. You know, to be honest, a lot of my connections and growth has happened just because I've been pushing on social media. For example, in the pandemic times, like in 2020, I started connecting with like different pages, like hip hop pages, but obviously some of the ones here, because that's more natural, like it's happening to some Toronto hip hop pages. But I also started connecting with a bunch of like hip hop pages from India and like South Asia, you know? And then through them, I realized like, yo, let me do like boost posts out in South Asia. And all of a sudden my music's like catching on over there, you know, making crazy fans out there. So without the power of the internet and social media, like I would have never been able to reach them from over here. So definitely there's ways to use it as a tool and there's ways to get super sucked in and lost in the sauce, you know, and it's really up to you how you use it and curate it. Like I got all my notifications off. I don't get any of those little red, like the numbers. I haven't seen
Yeah,
those in years, yo, because I
yeah,
have all that stuff off because it drives me crazy because I be getting so many notifications that like I can't really and I don't like letting it sit there, so it just
yeah.
bothers me, you
No,
know. So I have everything turned off, and like I only check the apps like when I feel like checking them, and then I'll
yeah,
see what's new, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, most definitely because like social media and like real life too with others that aren't into music or are like working in that sense too. Like some people like kind of feel like there's like this whole like toxicity within social media, like like especially like with TikTok and all that, with Facebook, with IG, on that whole like perfect like lifestyle and all that. Like with other people, like they'll post like their wins and all that. Like usually with IG and TikTok, and then like with Twitter, if they're like the trending topic too. So like some people they'll like it, some others like they'll don't and all that. But like even in that sense too, do you feel that there is like this whole like toxicity, just with having that whole like perfect life on social media to kind of show more so your wins, or do you feel like in that sense too, like you don't need to show like social media, like even on like those situations like that too, like if you feel like it might be like more harmful to even like show those wins?
I think that's one aspect of it is people doing that whole like perfect lifestyle and that. But I think social media has expanded a lot, and there's different types of people, and a lot of the biggest people they show more of the reality and like and the whole story. And I think even in that, there's ways to portray even the negatives or the downfalls in like positive ways, or spin it into like some sort of motivational story or something to learn a lesson from. I think if even in life, if you have L's, like as long as you're like learning from them or growing from them, then
Yeah.
there's ways to advance and level up off that. So I think that's more like what I'm tapped into. But yeah, like if you feel like social media is toxic, you're probably just tapped into the wrong people
Yeah.
and in the wrong bubbles. Like everyone's social media kind of gets curated to what keeps them on the
Yeah.
app. That's what all the
Yeah.
apps are just trying to do, is keep you on the app as long
Yeah.
as they can.
Yeah.
Like TikTok, even when you back up, they hit you right back to the top, right? They show you that one more video at the top. They're
Yeah.
like, you got to double back to make sure you want to leave this app, because
Yeah.
they're really trying to just keep you locked in
Yeah.
there. So,
And
reflect back. I
yeah.
mean, they got options. You can click like not interested and stuff. I try to hit those things on the
Yeah.
things that are whack, or
Yeah.
if it's people that I follow and like I gotta follow them or something and I don't want to see, I be just mute them up, like I don't want to see that
Sure.
negativity.
For sure, like most definitely, because like I noticed with me too, it's like I'll try to follow something that might be more interesting too, like with interviews, with other content as well too. Like I'm not really like interested in stuff that doesn't like appeal to me. So like that idea of like that whole like not interested section, or just like switching up like the algorithm, like it kind of works like either way too in that sense. So
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna hold this question off for now, but to speak more on like the music and everything else too, I want to
Word.
get into Peel like Volume 3 and all that.
Yes,
So
sir.
like in that sense, how is it like different from like all like the other like volumes that you have too? Like I know like you always have like the annual like cipher, which you had with like Villa, Dexray, and like a whole lot of other artists. But comparing like Volume 3 to like all the other volumes, like how is it different?
It's the trilogy. So for me, three is the final one, and I think it does a good job of just giving you a little bit of one, a little bit of two, and then giving you a little bit of fresh new sound that wasn't on one or two. And yeah, the cipher, like the Peel cipher, that's kind of like closer to one, because one was more rap heavy and just like more in my world that I'm more used to, and then two was rap too, but it also kind of branched me into like different pockets or subgenres of rap that I wasn't into as much, and that's kind of what I did with like Up Now with Everything Oshan, and then Village was like a song that I typically don't make, more like chilled out,
Like R&B type stuff?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
like R&B soulful rap type vibes, and that's like a vibe I've always been down for. A lot of different vibes I'm always down for. It's just about finding the right beat, the right artist to work with, so I can really bring the vision to life. So with this one, there's only 3 tracks, but there's legit 10 features on there. So it's
Yeah.
like I get a lot of things packed in. It's like Kanye back in the like beautiful dark twisted fantasy days, just like mad artists. You don't know what's
Yeah.
going on, who's where, but everyone's working together and just trying to build that collaborative aspect. So Peel, Brampton,
Yeah.
Mississauga, Caledon, got to rep the three, and we put them in there, and that's the
Yeah.
trilogy, 9 songs. That's actually what it was initially going to be, is a 9-song album, because the 905.
Yeah.
But then it was hard to time it all out and do that, so I wanted to just start dropping. So I broke it down
Yeah.
into 3-track EPs, and boom, it's out now.
Yeah, and it's more so like your homies that like you're tapped in with, like rather than like anyone like else in that sense too. Because I've noticed like there are like a lot of like artists like to even like tap in with High Mighty and like Bushman, and also with like Alicia Cara, Toby, all those other people too. But you're more tapped in with like your homies and all that too. So like in the future, would you ever like have like songs for Toby or Havaya or anyone else too, like to make that whole like Peel project like very big someday if you were to do like a volume 4 or like a Peel project album in that sense?
For sure. Yeah, that could be the next level for sure, to get all the bigger artists
Yeah.
and that on it. And yeah, I just wanted to keep it like pretty organic. Some of the artists like Fame Holiday and Everything with Sean, I hadn't worked with before, but over the last year, I just sort of, built the connections and made that happen. And, they're kind of bigger artists than myself, but they're trying to elevate. So there's some people who are I'm trying to bring up, some people who are helping bring me up. We're just trying to build that community, and other artists, yeah, Hawaii Mighty I've met, You know, Toby, I haven't met in person, but I've seen his work
Oh,
from
true,
years
yeah.
before, back when he was Tech Rhymes.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'd be sick to work with a lot of these
Yeah.
artists. So that's just things we'll get to for sure over time.
Yeah. No, most definitely. I don't know if anyone else like actually like tapped in with this question too, but how did you become like the artist ambassador in Brampton with that partnership with the BAO, and how is it like receiving that accolade for the first time? Did you feel like that life changed for you like in a way in that sense?
They pretty much just reached out to me like end of last summer saying like we're about to hit up a bunch of people like to who kind of represent Brampton on like a, you know, on a big stage. And I guess for me, like from my perspective, it's just I always, you know, always been repping Brampton like since I started rapping. You know, that was always something that was like big for me, like to, you know, never put like Toronto in my bio and stuff, and to not be like faking
Yeah.
where I'm from, and to let people know because like a lot of people just hate on Brampton even from within, and so I didn't really see any need for that. Like it's not a crazy city. There's not much going on, but there's not that much to hate on either. It's just
Yeah,
like a
man.
regular place. But we got a lot of talent and a lot of people that pop out of
Yeah.
there. So I was just trying to, you know, represent the name. And I go to a lot of events and just connect with the people and always showing love to different things in the city. So they just kind of recognize that. And there's definitely artists that are bigger than me who didn't get hit up for that. And from my perspective, that's just because they don't always rep it in the same way. There's some
Yeah.
artists who you probably don't even, some of us don't even know that they're from Brampton. They're probably from Brampton, you know, because they've
Yeah.
been claiming like Toronto
Yeah.
this whole time or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how they did it, and then they made it official. Like you mentioned, Havaya Mighty,
Yeah.
she's one of them, and Director X is one,
Oh,
and
true.
Rupi Kaur, and like some other people in the
Yeah.
film world, and in the art space, K Ray and Rusna,
Gotcha.
and did it change my life? Nah, not really. It didn't change my life, but what I would say is like it sort of changes like the perception of my life. You know, like people like when you get these big accolades,
Yeah.
people nothing really changes necessarily through the accolade, but the way people see you changes,
Yeah.
and then their actions or the way they like treat you changes, and then that
Yeah.
actually results in like your life leveling up. And so it's so, almost like self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah, man.
but like the thing itself doesn't necessarily change your life. It's hard to explain, but people just need to see that like other people are recognizing you because we're all, you know, social creatures at the end of the day, came from the jungles, and you know,
Yeah.
we're just trying to like be working as a society in whatever capacity that it is. And so, yeah, did it change my life? Not directly, but indirectly. You know, it's helped me
Yeah.
level up, and like
Yeah.
everyone, you know, that's a
Yeah.
sick title to have. You know, I've been bigging up Branson since the beginning, and like
Yeah.
to have it officially recognized, pretty legit.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. Because I saw like an IG story like a while back too. I think this is just like maybe like some hours ago. And you were talking about like why there like most people like with accolades with awards are being like shown more than people with like actual talent too. Like does it like constitute like with the more
True.
accolades?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was like today. Yeah.
yeah. So like maybe like in that sense too, like maybe it is like kind of like something that to agree with too, because with like the actual talent, you know, there are people that don't even have like enough like listeners or like enough fans and all that, but like the music is like very like immaculate to like hear and all that too. Like even we could say like that with like an MF Doom and all that, or like even with like the Far Side and all that, like with their projects, like not a lot of people like knew them like in that sense too, but years later, like their sound has been like more so like, you know, I'd say more so timeless in that sense, you know, because you could still hear like the rhymes, the lyricism, like the subject matters today, and like, you know, you could definitely like listen to it today as opposed to like listening to it like several years ago, and with other songs too that were like only hot in that specific region or like that specific time period, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's only like dated to that extent. Like it wouldn't be played like in 2023 now, as
Hmm.
opposed to like when it was like played like years back and all that. So I definitely agree in that sense.
Yeah, man. No, I
Yeah,
feel that.
most definitely. And you know, being a South Asian artist too, in that sense, like, what's that process like assimilating like Desi South Asian culture in hip hop and rap, which is like primarily like black music, black culture? Have you ever felt like it was like hard at times to attain acceptance and approval from like your black peers in that sense?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to maybe the first or one of the earlier questions you were asking about like the Gujarati culture and that. And I guess because in Brampton, like I was saying, we were just sort of rejecting it or not really like too immersed in that world. Like I pretty much fully grew up in the hip hop space. You know, like people put me on to hip hop when I was like 6, 7 years old, and it was a mix of people. Like it was brown people, black people,
Yeah,
like like East Asian people, like everybody, like we all just kind of grew up on the same thing. Because especially back then, like nowadays, hip hop's like the global main genre of the world, but back then it was like the counterculture, it was
Yeah.
definitely like not the mainstream, and like my parents weren't down with me listening to it because of like they're like, yo, it's all just swear. All they heard was
Yeah.
the swearing. They didn't even
Yeah.
understand the English, properly
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
I didn't really even think about it like that, like gaining acceptance or assimilating. I just kind of like felt like I was kind of always in it because in Brampton too, like every school, every high school has like some few people trying to be rappers, few people trying to
Yeah.
be DJs, dancers. Like it was pretty
Yeah.
normal, and there was no real barrier on ethnicity, and I'm sure that extends to Toronto too. It's just like
Yeah.
a crazy just mix of people, and it's all blended in.
Yeah.
And
No.
especially when you're young, you don't even like think about those deeper things too much. And so yeah, it wasn't until honestly, even like later in uni when I finally started like going back and trying to mix in like brown samples and like Indian
Yeah.
instruments and things into the music
Yeah.
and incorporating it. Because like to be honest, like when I was growing up, I actually did like always enjoyed those types of songs from like Timbaland and Just Blaze and
Yeah. No.
Kanye. Like so, I was kind of slacking and thinking like, yo, why didn't I do this before? And then I got into it,
Yeah.
and now it's like it's heavily in there. Like I was saying, I tapped into the whole Indian Desi hip hop
Yeah.
scene, and I don't speak Gujarati or Hindi that well or anything like that. So I try to work with artists out of those countries, like all
Yeah.
countries from South Asia and around the world. Just trying to mix it up and tap in with the world.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And like I've noticed like the whole like connection to with Toronto and like other parts of Canada and like other parts of the world, like London, like they're more accepting. Like I think everyone works together, like as opposed to like America, where with black artists and like black people, like in that sense too, like they have like a high standard for who gets accepted to the culture, like who gets accepted to the cookout and all that. Whereas with other cultures, because everyone has like different backgrounds, like around the world, like there isn't that whole notion where one person can be only accepted in one culture. Like it's everyone that's accepted in one culture, like there's like brown artists like working with black artists too, like Sidhu Moosewala and like Block Boy Twitch and like Mozzie and all that. Like, black rappers like sampling brown songs like King Von, CJ, Whoopty. So I definitely notice, and like even with the whole like Stefan Don, Sidhu Moosewala song and like Steel Bangles, like you do notice like that acceptance too, either way with like everyone like connecting too. And this leads to like another question as well too. Is there like a specific standard for a South Asian rapper to make it in the mainstream music scene nowadays?
A specific standard?
Like in a sense, like to kind of make it in the industry too. Like there's like some artists that kind of have to follow through like with similar traits and all that, or they have to follow within like a similar approach to kind of make in that sense too to be more marketable. But do you feel like there should be like an open market? Like there is like an open market to have like South Asian rappers or anyone else too to kind of be in it without like overstepping like that culture, like in that sense too, like overstepping I'd say more like overstepping like boundaries in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's pretty open. I think just based on some of the artists that have popped off so far, like they have some pretty different sounds. So I think there's no real limit on it. And just going from like what's popping in India is like with hip hop, it's pretty new. Like it was definitely underground from like the 2000s and like early 2010s, but like mid 2010s, it really started blowing up on like a mainstream level. And now it's like it's taking over there the same way it's taken over in North America.
Yeah.
But the difference is like they're new to like all the genres of hip hop. So like people are blowing up doing boom bap, people are blowing up doing trap, emo rap, like
Yeah.
everything, and it's all happening at the same time. So there's a lot of potential, and the worlds are colliding. Nas started a mass appeal in India. He's got this
Yeah.
guy named Divine signed out
Yeah.
there. Divine has songs with like Armani White and Jada
True,
Kiss and
true.
Russ and
Yeah.
stuff, and everyone's mixing in. Tory Lanez had a song with Diljit Dosanjh, and
Yeah.
YG got a song with Karan Aujla. So a
Yeah.
lot of like cross collabs, like kind of you were
Yeah.
mentioning earlier with Sid doing that. So yeah, I think it's all blending, and beyond
Yeah.
music, just the whole world is in this fusion state. All the
Yeah.
foods are fusion, all the
Yeah.
clothes are
Exactly.
fusion. Everything is just like
Yeah.
everything's merging, and it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of sick. I think it's like the best of
Yeah.
different worlds just coming together and being like, yeah, how can we tap in
Yeah.
together?
No, 100% too, because like I know like with white rappers too, because like usually too, there's like a lot of people that do tend to like gatekeep like the culture in that sense too, on who gets accepted versus who doesn't get accepted, or like who's like more marketable versus who's like not really like interesting in that too sense. So it kind of like leads to that question too, like even what I was like trying to rephrase, because there is like some people that do tend to gatekeep, and like there can only be like a certain person like in that level to represent like certain cultures, like Eminem to represent for white people, or Nav to represent for like South Asian artists, or
True.
like
Yeah.
Rich Brian. So I kind of noticed like when there is that open lane for everyone to get through, like it all works either way, So
Yeah. Yeah.
most definitely, man. And
Help each other
yeah,
out.
man. Nah, 100% too. And with Toronto too, like I think for brown artists, like it's like very like amazing to see right now. I mean, Nav like paved the way too, like when he blew up in like 2017 and all that, and then it led to everyone else like coming in that sense too. And in my question, how do you even like feel about it, like with South Asian rappers like blowing up like in Toronto, like with Nav, AR Paisley, Lioness Core, Lil OT, Roadrunner, and like he's not even from Toronto, but Tesher, with Jalebi Baby or something like that, or
Jalebi baby.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, how do you feel about that right now with like brown artists in Toronto, or like South Asian artists in Toronto, kind of like making like a name for for themselves too in that sense?
Yeah, it's sick, bro. It's sick. It's a wave of people doing their own thing. I think a lot of the artists you mentioned, they're doing their own thing, like in their
Yeah,
own pockets, which
yeah,
is pretty cool. It'd be sick to see like more people collaborating and like working together and building that too. I try to do that with all the artists that I know.
yeah,
So
man.
all those artists I'm not I don't know them all like that, so haven't worked with
Yeah,
those people yet. But nah, it's sick to see just sick to see
yeah,
people leveling up and
yeah,
elevating. So it's always good to see people doing their thing.
yeah.
Honestly, regardless of what ethnicity or thing they are, it's just cool to see people going for
Yeah.
their dreams and grinding.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I know Nav's like, on that high level right now, so I don't see like, anyone like even tapping in with Nav unless like you're in like a circle and all that. But I feel like within like your like level range too, like within like the connects, like, with AR, with Linus, with like OT, Roadrunner, like I think like one collab that I actually want to see from you, like maybe it could work out, but you and AR Paisley too, like him being from Saga, you being from Brampton, like I do definitely see like that whole like collab like coming soon and all that too, because he's like very like on a high approach with like his lyricism and with everything else too. You're doing the same thing too, so I definitely see like an AR Paisley like Spitty like collab coming soon and all that,
True, true. Maybe you're manifesting it
Yeah,
right now.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Nah,
find
most
out.
definitely. Yeah, man. But Suda Muse Walla and all that,
Hmm.
like, I mean, he's like the biggest like artist like throughout the world and all that, and like, rest in peace, like with him like tragically passing away just like last year and all that. I don't know if like people ever talked about you like about this, but how do you react to the death of him like last year, and how did you feel about his impact on what he brought to like South Asian like Punjabi music and like within hip hop and mainstream music during that time?
Yeah, he was definitely one of the bigger artists, like you said, and it was pretty crazy, pretty sudden his passing. So I definitely didn't expect it. Can't say I was like listening to him too much like that because I honestly just don't listen to Punjabi music that much. I don't understand it, so I'm not like that invested in
Mm.
it. But growing up in Brampton and specifically like Ray Lawson, Sheridan area, his impact is like really really known and. Right after he passed, they planned like a couple of days after they planned like the vigil or whatever at College Plaza, which is
Yeah,
like the plaza across Sheridan College that everyone pulls up to, and that for me that's like walking distance. So
yeah, man.
I pulled up there and like it was cool just to show some respects and like see like the amount of community that came out, in support for a guy who he wasn't even born there. I think he came there in like the late 2010s and then
Yeah,
just popped off in the music scene with the Brown Boys and all
yeah,
that.
no.
So it's crazy. Like and yeah, he's got a big impact. I think a lot of that comes through with him having the right connections, like I said, with Brown Boys and working with some of the people here that
Yeah.
helped him establish. And now that bridge is really there of like a lot of people from like Punjab coming to Brampton or Canada and like working with people here and trying to blow up. Like people come here as students, but they're trying to make it as artists.
Yeah,
So it's a crazy game people are
yeah, man.
playing. If it works, it works. So
Yeah,
salute to all of them on the
yeah,
hustle.
yeah, man. AP like Dylan too in that sense too, because he was like
Yeah.
in Vancouver, and like now he's like in the Junos and all that, like performing, and it's like amazing to see like with everyone like coming in like within like that whole South Asian community, just like with representation, everything like that. It's kind of like similar to how like the Mexican and like Spanish community is like blowing up like in the States and all that, with a lot of like Mexican and like Spanish rappers collabing with the chorito music, with everything going on. So definitely amazing to see and all that, you know. Yeah, man. And have you ever felt that you've grown as an artist from the start of your career until now?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think even if you weren't like trying to grow, if you just kept doing something over and over again, like naturally you probably get a little better. But I think when I started, I thought I was a lot better than I was. So I wasn't so focused on growth. I was just focused on blowing up and going viral and trying to make it. And it took a couple few years for me to really sit back and be like, oh, let me actually focus on improving my cadence or my voice or my breath control or this or that. You know, there's so many different ways you can develop as a rapper, as an artist, as a creator, whatever. And, you know, nowadays, like that's my constant focus is just like self improvement, you know, because I think if you're just leveling up yourself, then if you think you're on the right path and your stuff's doing what it needs to be doing, then if you're constantly improving, then your work's gonna keep improving. So that's where I'm definitely focused on. And yeah, 100% grown a lot since the
Oh,
beginning. It's been like over 10 years, you know.
yeah,
So
man.
if I didn't improve, that'd be crazy, bro. I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah,
what's wrong with
man.
this guy?
I think nowadays too, like I think you're on your way to like legendary status and all that too, just like with everything going on. So I
Trying
do
to, man,
definitely,
trying to.
yeah, man.
Just working.
Nah, for sure, you know. And I think we already talked a lot about like TikTok in that sense too, with like marketing and everything else too. But
Mhm.
to speak more on computer programming, tech, and all that, like, how do you like implement that? What you've learned from like schooling and like in the tech industry to like your music, like, and your branding in that sense too.
I would say I haven't implemented it too much into my music and branding. I feel like definitely initially, like it wasn't something I was trying to rep because like I was trying to be a rapper, you know, I wasn't trying to
Yeah,
tell people like I'm doing this computer science or
yeah,
whatever. So it was more so after like, and especially now that I quit, that now it's more of a story because now it's not like my identity no more.
yeah,
But one thing I'll say is like just being around computers and being in the tech space a lot and doing all that, like being able to, you know, edit my own videos and handle all the social media and figure out these different
yeah,
things and like um make my own website and run my own merch shop and all that kind of stuff. That's like it's pretty simple, but like if you have just like the experience of using a computer and troubleshooting a lot of things, like becomes way easier. So I feel like I'm pretty used to managing myself and figuring things out and fixing stuff. So I never had to like outsource a lot a lot of that work and I could just handle it on my own. And to be honest, now actually I'm slowly working on some things where I'm trying to implement
yeah,
my my tech skills and my programming skills into the music because
yeah,
there's definitely an overlap and now especially with things like NFTs and the whole Web3 space growing
yeah.
in that like the programming and coding world and the rap and the
Yeah.
music is like it's just blending like crazy.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean AI, Chat GPT and all that, like Chat
Mm,
GPT, like it's like more used for like songwriting right now, and then AI, like you know the whole like Drake weekend, like hard on my sleeve type shit and all that. It's
yeah, yeah.
too crazy right now. So how do you even like feel about that situation with AI and like Chat GPT like taking over?
I think you got to always adapt to whatever technologies arise, you know? Always the technologies and things are going to keep progressing. Like we live in a society
Yeah,
in a world where we've decided that like growth is infinite and like
yeah,
the economy literally like is structured on the fact that we have to keep progressing. If like we decide one day we want to stop, like everything's going to collapse. So because of that, we just have to keep progressing and innovating. And even if you don't want to, someone else will want to, and that's going to push the whole world forward. And I'm sure, 30, 40, whatever, however many years ago when people started like taking records and sampling them and flipping them like
yeah,
that, people were like, yo, you can't be doing that. That's like my
yeah,
music. And now you're flipping
yeah,
it and creating different things. And,
yeah,
especially when it got electronic and you could chop it up in crazy different ways, doing remixes and all that. Like people freak out about that too. But it's all about adapting. Like if you believe in yourself and your identity and creativity, then the technology shouldn't be a limit. It should just be a tool, and you should be able to figure out
yeah.
how to express your art or
Yeah.
your thoughts in any medium, I think.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And like I think like with one question too, it's like even like within a means of consent too, because anyone can take like a certain amount of vocals and like put it like into a song too. Like I was like watching this IG thing where I think it's like an IG post where I think someone used Kanye's like vocals to put like a song from like a rapper named Rio the Young OG's like legendary song too. So like even in a situation where like let's say I take your vocals and then I put it into a song that I already like song wrote and like, I took it without your consent in that situation too, or like there's like no means of consent, like how would you like react to it like in that sense?
Yeah, I think the copyright and all that stuff is tricky, and obviously, like people care about it because of the money. But just from an art standpoint, like that stuff's kind of irrelevant, you know. Like the
Yeah.
art only like is muddled with all the copyright in that because of the money, you know.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't really there, then I think people would be free to remix and
Yeah.
recreate and take and be inspired from things like however they want. And when you look at a lot of like people who talk about the future, talk about things in more like I don't know, um, progressive ways, like it's just about like yeah, just let it be, you know. Like
Yeah.
hip hop thrives because of like that whole culture, you know. That's kind of
Yeah.
what it was based on. So it's like for me, can't be doing that. There's some artists who are saying like, yo, if you do an AI flip, like yeah, just give me 50% and we'll
Yeah.
go crazy.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like the smarter way to do
Yeah.
it because
Yeah.
you can't like prevent things, you know, like no matter what. Back in the day, we had all these like mega video and mega upload watching
Yeah.
bootleg videos, and then like that's why Netflix and those things
Yeah.
popped off because like they try to like regulate it and monetize off of it. So give it a few years, maybe not even a few months, and I'm sure like all these labels will like create AI models of
Yeah.
their own artists and then like
Yeah.
make you use those licensed ones to work
Yeah.
with, you know? So they'll be making
Yeah.
money off every time you use it instead of just you using it
Yeah.
on your own.
Yeah, I mean they did that with like FN Mecca, but like it didn't like last long. So,
Right, right.
so
That
yeah,
was
I
a
did.
test probably. That was just a
Yeah,
test run, you
yeah,
know? Now it's coming
yeah,
full
man.
force. They're gonna adapt
Yeah, nah, for sure, man. I mean, we just have like these last couple questions for a bit
for
too.
sure.
But what are your favorite like movies, TV shows, podcasts, and like books that you recommend to anyone that's like tuning in right now?
Dang, that's a lot. Hold up. What'd you say? Movies?
Like movies, like if you have like a favorite movie or a TV show or a podcast or a book that you'd have been like tapping in more, or like that you want to like recommend, which ones would you recommend? Like
Uh,
it could be one or the other and all that, you know, like it doesn't have to be like each individual one.
oh,
So
I see. I see.
yeah.
Let me think. Let me think. This well, my favorite TV show of all time is The Wire. Why you seen The Wire?
Yeah, man, all seasons, you know.
Yeah,
So
The
I
Wire is top. Well, first of all, HBO just makes like
yeah,
crazy TV. It's like home movies. They
yeah,
live up to their title, you know, like that
yeah,
stuff's crazy.
yeah,
But The Wire, holy, that's like I try to explain to people like it's like if Game of Thrones happened in the hood, you know, like they break down all the factions and stuff. They tell you the story from all the perspectives, you
yeah,
know, of like the gangs and the police and the
yeah, exactly,
journalists and the
man.
kids and the
Yeah,
politicians.
man.
So that's a deep show. That's like it's got funny moments, it's got serious moments, it's got action. So definitely watch that. And then
Yeah,
books. I haven't read too many books recently. I definitely grew up reading a lot of books though, and like more recently read a lot more of like nonfiction, like kind of life improvement books. What's a sick one though? Classic one that I read, probably one of the first ones, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's like an OG book. That's like from like the 20s or 30s, but it's just like super obvious. Like once you read it, like advice on how to operate in life. But sometimes you just need to like remind yourself and like actively like do those things, and then you'll find yourself being a better person and having better
yeah,
interactions, you know? So that's
yeah.
that's a sick book. Another sick book is Sapiens. You ever read
Right.
Sapiens?
I think I read the How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't know, but the Sapiens one, I might have to check when I get home.
Yeah, Sapiens
Yeah,
pretty crazy. It's like this guy, he takes you through the history of like Homo sapiens from
yeah,
like when there was like 6 or 7 human species in the world until there was one, and then how they went from like
yeah,
hunter gatherers to farmers to
yeah,
all this stuff. And it's actually crazy because it answered like a lot of questions I had just about like how we got to this point. You know, I think sometimes we just like are born and we just go into the rat race and just like
yeah,
let it all be, but sometimes it's like, yo, why? Like, why am I even doing any of this? So
yeah,
had a lot of those questions, you know, some years back, and some of these books pretty helpful to
yeah,
answer
man.
them for
Yeah,
sure.
true. Have you watched Oz before?
The Wizard of Oz?
No, Oz. Like it's an actual TV show on HBO. Back then, like in the late 90s. I mean,
Oh, nah, I haven't seen that one.
definitely check that out too. But it actually paved the way for all the shows on HBO: Sopranos, Wire, like Rosewood. I think it's like a TV show too. Game of Thrones, Euphoria. It helped set the standard on the whole like explicit content and the long form content on like HBO. So
Oh, okay,
so yeah,
okay.
definitely check that out. Like if you're into like the whole like prison type stuff, like you know, in a men's prison, all that type of stuff too. I mean, there's some notable actors on there, like Dean Winters, J.K. Simmons, Adewale, Rick Fox, yeah, Bodie from The Wire was like also like on there too. Leon, like a lot of other people. Definitely watch that. Like it'll blow your mind too. So and like you'll notice like the influence on like, and it was like based on like the late '90s and ended like in like '03 and all that. So definitely check that out too.
Okay,
But
okay, sick,
yeah,
yeah.
man. And like, how do you deal with your mental health as a person of your caliber with everything going on in your life? Have you ever felt at times it could be like overwhelming?
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty much always overwhelming. There's a lot to do, a lot going on as I've been pushing myself more and just trying to take on more. It just compounds and never stops. To be honest, like today I woke up at like 9, and I use like a to do list type of like calendar just to mark all the things I need to do, and I literally have things I need to do from 9 a.m. to like 12 a.m. and it's just like full locked in. Most of it's like music related stuff. Some of it's just like house chores and
Yeah.
stuff, but some of it's like coming here, you know? So it's just like the grind just don't stop, you know? And like there's actually even more stuff that I need to do today, but literally there was not enough time in the day. So I got to push that to tomorrow.
Yeah, no.
And that's just how it goes, you know? Like, I try to like be a little smart with my sleep and stuff, but some days it's just too many days in a row where I don't sleep enough. It gets a little crazy, you know? So honestly, how do I handle it? That's a good question. You know, I got asked that a couple times before, and I don't really know like the best answer because I haven't fully figured it out yet.
It's like more so like a process going on. Like you have to like kind of figure out too, and then when you have that set solution or like that set answer, like it'll be like the one right there.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, I think like that whole work-life balance is key, but like
Yeah.
also sometimes in your life, there's just certain times where like the momentum and things are just crazier than other times, you know? Like if you were a freaking NBA player, like game 5 is gonna feel a lot
Yeah,
different than game 5 of the regular season is gonna feel a lot different than freaking game 5 of like the NBA
Yeah,
finals, you
yeah,
know?
exactly,
So
man.
it's just like different things in your life going on, different momentum and
Yeah.
like the amount of effort and energy you need to put in to do what you need to do in that period of your life is gonna be different. So right now, it's really just like this like climactic point, you know, like a lot of
Yeah.
things are going crazy for me. So I'm just trying to keep pushing and see like how far I could take it.
Yeah, man. And you don't have like any regrets in your life, or do you have like any that you'd like to share, like in that sense too? Because I kind of asked that like at the end too. So
I try not to like have regrets, but I for sure do because when I was younger and even to this day, like I'm still breaking out of it, but I was just mad anxious and like when I was a kid, like just super nervous and scared to like always like seize opportunities and go for the things or like whatever the people I wanted, you know? So like, yeah, you know, there's definitely been regrets, but a lot of those are pretty minuscule in the grand scheme of things because I think over time I've got better at it and now I try to just go for everything I want. So like the way I live now is like more in line with how I've always wanted to be because like that's one thing is like I found is like if you don't try like that's when you get that regret, you know, you just
yeah,
that what if thought comes into your head and I don't want to leave that there. So I try to just try everything I can, you know, like quit the job, go for the
yeah,
music. We're about to make it happen, yeah.
yeah, man. And you know, I want to ask, like, do you have any like closing remarks you'd like to say, like for the end, right here?
You can find me on all platforms, yo. SPITTY, Spitty on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. And then on social media, Spitty95, SPI TTY 95, Instagram, TikTok, you know, Facebook if you use that, Twitch, YouTube. I'm trying to push YouTube a lot
Yeah,
more,
man.
and I got a song a month at least dropping this whole year. So in April, I dropped 2 songs. I dropped the EP,
True, yeah.
but at least 1 song a month dropping for the whole year. Just
Alright,
trying to stay consistent with visuals and content. So grind
yeah,
don't stop, yo.
yeah, man. You know, Spitty, you know, legendary episode, like legendary conversation right here. So,
Appreciate you,
and
bro.
absolutely like to give you your flowers and all that, you
Yes,
know, just with
sir.
everything going on, you know, keep grinding, keep doing you, you know, like you're a gem, like in like a stone full of black and all that. So you have to kind of like rise to like the top either way too. And I wish like nothing but the best for you with your career and everything else too. And you know, I'd like to end it off to thank everyone for watching. You know, thank you everyone for tuning in and all that to this legendary 30th episode. It'll be out on
Peace.
all platforms soon. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, if you want to see like the visuals and all that, you might see a clip on like TikTok, Instagram, and all that. So like definitely tap in, definitely check in on that new EP, Peel Volume 3, out now on all platforms. And check out everything else too with Spitty's social media and everything else too, and with the platform as well too. And this is Josh, also known as Yashu, episode 30, the legendary rapper Spitty95, B-Town's own, on TLOY Talks, signing off. Yes, sir.
Ah, sick, bro.
Yeah, man. No, it's legendary
Appreciate you,
right
man.
there and all that. You know, it was a
Appreciate you,
great
bro.
episode. Yeah, man.
Dope
Yeah.
conversation.